guardan. Escuchamos detonaciones en la avenida Sucre.
A 61-year-old woman was killed, 4 people wounded by gunfire at a polling site at the Western Caracas church in Venezuela Sunday. More than 7 million Venezuelans voted over the weekend in a referendum on their president's plan to rewrite the Constitution and consolidate government power. Today, opposition leaders are calling for more street protests and a strike later this week. Almost 100 people have died in demonstrations over the last 3 months in Venezuela. It's a story you need to hear about. Joining us to talk about it is Florida Congresswoman Ros-Lehtinen, who's leading an effort for sanctions and other measures to address this crisis in Caracas. She's with us live on Capitol Hill tonight. Congresswoman, thanks for being here.
No, Brett, thank you. You're one of the few journalists focusing on this crisis of democracy in Venezuela. Thank you for this coverage.
Well, thanks for being here. What your reaction to this weekend and what it means?
It was so wonderful to see Venezuelans in record numbers in every corner of the world go out and say no to Maduro and say yes to democracy, to having free and fair elections, to having the Constitution being respected. And I was at one of the sites at the University of Miami Coral Gables Center, and it was just amazing. Venezuelans, after being stepped on by Hugo Chavez and now Nicolas Maduro, who's just as bad as Chavez, and having communism stuffed down their throat, they're saying yes to democracy. So I was just enthused watching them get so happy. But the fight is just beginning. As you pointed out, Brett, over 100 people have been killed by Maduro's thugs. Hundreds and hundreds are in jail, political prisoners. Thousands have been injured in these street demonstrations. So the fight continues. Maduro's next plan is he's going to have some sham elections, as you say, to further consolidate his illegal power grab. Unbelievable.
So, let me put up some stats here about Venezuela. You mentioned the 100 people dying in the opposition since April. Inflation rate in Venezuela, 800% at the end of 2016. 87% of the population said it didn't have enough money to buy necessary food. The GDP dropped 12% in 2016 after oil prices fell. And then by 2017, the country has owed $140 billion to foreign creditors. What does that mean for somebody in the U.S. sitting on the couch that maybe Congresswoman hasn't really been paying attention to this or has been inundated with other stories?
Well, that's why I'm so glad that you're covering this story. Venezuela, you've got to remember, all of you viewers, was one of the richest, most productive, most powerful countries, freest countries in all of Latin America. It was the breadbasket for Latin America. Now they don't even have wheat, they don't have milk, they don't have diapers, they don't have medicine. It's a basket case. So it went from a breadbasket to a basket case. Why? Because socialism and communism does not work. And so the people are saying, what is ahead for us? And that's why I respect what they're doing. They're demonstrating peacefully in the streets, but they're also going to the ballot boxes and they're saying yes. So they're doing everything. Now it's up to us in the United States to sanction those human rights abusers in Venezuela and say, I know you like to come to Disney World and visit Mickey Mouse. Well, guess what? If you trample on people's human rights, you're not going to be able to come to the U.S. We're going to freeze your bank accounts. We're going to confiscate your luxury condos and your yachts. And you decide, treat the people with respect, or you will not be able to come to the United States. Venezuelan human rights activists, they understand that these thugs love to come to the land of milk and honey, the United States. Let's not give them that privilege.
The White House was asked about this today. Sean Spicer, White House press secretary, had this to say about the weekend's events.
We congratulate the Venezuelan people for the huge turnout in the referendum yesterday and the unmistakable statement that they made, that they delivered to their government. We condemn the violence inflicted by government thugs against innocent voters and efforts by the government to erode democracy in Venezuela. We once again call for the Constituent Assembly of July 30th to be canceled and for free and fair elections to be scheduled.
You mentioned, Congresswoman, sanctions. Specifically, what can you do in Congress and what is realistic?
Well, I think President Trump has taken the correct approach. He's already put on the sanctions list of the members of the Supreme Court, the Venezuelan Supreme Court, who illegally have been placing these human rights activists and peaceful protesters in jail. And so what Maduro did is he cynically moved one of the greatest opposition leaders, Leopoldo Lopez, from a military jail where he should have never been there for 3 years. Over 3 years he's been rotting in jail, and he put him under house arrest. So he's still trying to oppress the peaceful dissent of the people. I think that the president was right in sanctioning these Supreme Court justices because he has packed the court. These are just thugs of Maduro. There's nothing judicial or tied to justice about these elements of the judicial system in Venezuela. We've got to do more of that. We're giving President Trump more names to sanction, and that's the way that we should operate, in a peaceful, democratic way in Venezuela and in the correct way here in the United States. Coming to the United States is a privilege. It's not a right. We should not allow people who violate human rights to come into our country.
Venezuela was 3.1% of the world's oil production last year, a 10th largest producer last year. Economically, how does this affect the U.S. potentially as that kind of devolves and that government really has some questions about its survival?
Well, we should not continue to buy oil from Nicolás Maduro. The United States, thankfully, is becoming more energy independent every day. We don't have to rely on the thugs of the world who before had us over a barrel. We are making our own energy. We shouldn't buy from all these terrible countries who use the money to oppress their own people. Let's make our own energy, and let's tell Nicolás Maduro, you give it away to the thugs in Cuba or Nicaragua, whatever you want to do, but we're not going to buy from you anymore.
Last thing, short answer, Congresswoman. Give me a worst case scenario and give me a best case scenario when it comes to Venezuela.
Worst case scenario, Maduro continues his power grab, jails all the human rights activists after his fake election at the end of this month, and continues to oppress the Venezuelan people, and they'll be starting to come in droves. They don't want to live there. There's no future for them there. We don't want that. We want them to stay in their country, in a free and democratic country. They deserve that.
And that's the best case scenario, a quick change.
That's the best case. Absolutely.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.